I would describe on my side, the entrepreneurial side, is like, until I bet on myself, I didn't know I could do this or wanted to do this or like could stomach it. And once you've done that, what you understand is once you fail, if you do fail, you can just pick yourself up and start again, something else or somewhere else. And I think it's the same there, because at that point, if like you're a 22-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 28-year-old, whatever the age bracket it is, and saying like, I want to go win the CrossFit Games or go to the CrossFit Games, that's where you're at in your life and you have to decide from a business or an entrepreneurial perspective, because that's a piece of it, is like, am I willing to do what it takes to do that? And then you got to bet on yourself.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Invictus Mindset Podcast. Today's guest is the CEO of HWPO Training. He's making his third appearance on the show. I guess they say third time's a charm, huh, Matt? None other than the legend,
I guess.
Matt O'Keefe. Thanks for joining me again, man.
Oh, thank you. I love coming on and getting to catch up with you. So thanks for having me back. I didn't realize this is our third time. This is awesome.
Third time, man. And I mean, it's also really cool because we get to cross paths briefly at events, and I get to kind of fanboy from afar and see all the cool things you guys are up to, and then, share them a little bit. But first and foremost, that beard's getting thick, man.
Oh, I know. Its days are numbered. We'll see later this week, I'll be at the open announcement. Mallory is doing it, so it could be off by then. I grow it generally annually to ski, because I ski a fair amount in the winter.
Totally.
So I think it's interesting though, when you're not a beard person and you like, it's temporary, you tend to like touch it too much.
Oh, I'm sure.
So it's like, if somebody could play a game, if they're watching this podcast, how many times would Keith going to touch his beard? If it had beer related to it, you'd get drunk.
How does your wife like it?
Does not. So.
And the reason why I ask is, according to bro code, men grow beards for other men. They don't grow them for their significant others.
Yeah, I don't think there's any of them that love it, especially if it's like not how you normally walk around. So yeah, no, not a big fan. Keeps me warm though. It's so cold up here.
Oh, I'm sure.
In the winter, we ski some real cold days up in Maine, where we ski a lot. And I took a trip to Japan, which is really cold, which produces some of the best skiing because of it. So it keeps my face warm.
Totally, man. You alluded to a few cool things that I want to unpack today. You've been dancing all over the world, man. I think last time I crossed paths with you was at Wadapalooza. Shortly after that, you went up to Japan with the Buttery Bros and Matt Bickle, which, for those of you listening, if you haven't checked that episode out on YouTube with the Buttery Bros and O'Keefe, and I believe it's titled Man Loses 175 Pounds to Become an Amazing Skier, referencing Matt Bickle. And selfishly, he's going to be out here in like a week, so I'm pumped to spend some time with him and tag along on some of his yoga adventures. And then lastly, man, we're in the middle of the CrossFit Open, which you and I both know for the CrossFit space is always a busy time of year, a little bit pressure, high anxiety. Even when they're taking the top 10%, something about being in this space this time of year just like brings that heart rate up just a little bit.
It sure does. It's oh man, we could talk about that for days. Where I live too, like I live on two sides of that. Like I am a CrossFitter, so I love it, right? And my body is a little beat up, so like I wasn't really able. I didn't do the first workout. My back, I just have this like nagging back thing going on. I actually really wrecked myself skiing in Japan. That was the reason. I think it's in the video when I tweaked my back, when I dumped on our backcountry skiing adventure. Just byproduct of all the miles on my body from the years. But I did do this week, and I was, again, my first workout of this year, and it was like I'm always reminded of. I love the energy around it, and it's just like such a gathering point in the gym. It's the largest sporting event that we can figure out in the history of the world. It's such a cool, awesome event. And then on the elite side, it's like stressful because it's not important, but it's hard to tell a competitor that it's not important to to look at that and like measure off of it, it really isn't. It's like not an area that they would train for. They're training through it. A lot of times they might have done other workouts that morning before they actually do the workout. And 10% for them is, a lot of people don't understand that, but like 10% for them is like, they could have not trained for a month and still qualify in the top 10%.
But what did Glassman say with some of his onset within the CrossFit structure was that, when you put a score on a whiteboard, people are going to die for points. I know Justin Medeiros likes to talk about that as well, as far as his personal philosophy in-person competitions. Yeah. But you and I both know it's a lot easier to hide when you're not posting your score somewhere, or, it's one of the things that helped Beyond the Whiteboard kind of blow up a little bit. And there's positives and negatives to that, right? Like there's people shortchanging movement patterns in pursuit of the score. And then there's also like, the other side of that, which is amazing, which is a little bit more gas, like not quite letting go of that throttle because they're trying to compete against their buddies, or they know, a distant relationship is going to see that score on the leaderboard on games.crossfit.com.
So true. All of it. Yeah. It's really the magic of CrossFit. That at least from my perspective, what I've experienced is like, a competitive athlete in college, and then lost a little bit on just health and wellness. And then, having done many other things, fitness that just like are super repetitive and boring and hard to get excited about, and without a target too. I ran marathons. I've done, those adventure races, like things that, you build to say like, all right, at least I have something to point towards 4 months from now that'll keep me interested. That, that's every day in a CrossFit gym, because, you're like just what you said. I love it. Like I don't get to my affiliate. I don't own the one that I go to, CrossFit The Swamp, as much as I would like to. But when I go in, it's different. Like I just like, there's magic, running and chasing people down. And, or if you're last and there's a bunch of people cheering for you, it's so cool. Yeah. That element then translates for them too, in just a different way. It's like, my score on the board, and these top tier athletes, that are chasing the podium at the games too. It's another level of, there's scrutiny that comes with the videos being published, and which is like, hey, it's all part of the job. It's not complaining. It's just like, it's just an interesting phase of the year that on the, when you're coaching games athletes, you look to just like get through. I'm excited Mal's doing the announcement. Like, I think that's a really cool tool, that I learned with, working with Matt mostly, that just kind of like gets it out of the way. And, competitors like Matt and Mal particularly, like they perform really well in those environments. Because, look at Mallory the last year, and then this year, like every workout she's done has been like first or second in the world, and that's at home. She just gets up for things that are going to show up, in a score, in a really cool way. Matt was always like that too. Like any open announcement, like I don't think he's ever redone one out. He did one, the first one when he did it with Rich, because his shoe came off trying to do a clean and jerk. So he like redid it because he missed the lift. But, most of the time that score, like Matt did, I don't remember what year it was, but the one 19.5 on the roof in Miami when I was at Loud and Live, he did that thruster chest bar workout. That was disgusting.
Yeah, that one was nasty.
He literally put it out to the world and nobody could touch it, So yeah, it's
some cool environments out there, man. And it definitely just goes to show too that, like, I know we say it, but to actually feel it during the open, the power of community. Trident Coffee is sponsoring this episode of the Invictus Mindset Podcast. My guys over at Trident taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good and bad, and everything in between. At Trident, they're storytellers. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. They help create connections through symbology and storytelling that engage their customers on an emotional level, and this distinguishes them from other coffee brands. You can find Trident in Imperial Beach and in Coronado. They offer over 14 plus nitro cold brews along with dairy-free options. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from their keto bakery. All these options will allow you to support your health and fitness journey with Trident Coffee. They're more than just a coffee company. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Once again, that's tridentcoffee.com. Use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Take your coffee experience to the next level. Two important factors for us over at Invictus Mindset are true care and attention to detail. My friends over at RX Smart Gear have been bringing innovative fitness tools to the market since 2009. From their award-winning Evo speed ropes, to their amazing gymnastics grips, to their line of inflatable fitness equipment, they're constantly looking to problem solve within the fitness industry. They're always allowing us to have our gear work for us rather than against us. Hop on over to RX Smart Gear and use discount code Invictus Mindset to shop their latest cutting-edge gear. Have your gear work with you and not against you. And also the relatability. You mentioned, the recreational component, but then also the elite component. You're doing the same workout. And so it's cool to kind of have that connection, even playing field. Everybody's attacking the same reps, the same weight more often than not. And it's in pursuit of the common goal of let's better ourselves and throw down, and then let's talk about it afterwards, and have some cool dialogue and storytelling associated with doing hard things.
So true. Yeah, I've loved the application of the more common athletes like myself that are doing the workout before the games level athletes in the open announcements this year. I think it's just more, I think they nailed that, honestly, because that's who we are as a community is, more people on that side are doing it that way, and they're just as passionate as anybody on the professional side. We all, we're programmers, everything we do, we know is geared around people getting really ready for this time of year. Mm-hmm. So it's super cool. It's just fun. It's it also kicks off a really cool time for the next, 5 months or so, 6 months. It's awesome.
Yeah, totally.
I love this time of year.
Matt, I want to backtrack a little bit. Some people know a little bit about your story. Some don't, but you're always such a forward thinker. You have such unique business savvy about you. And you alluded to it a little bit where you played collegiate sports and then maybe lost touch a little bit with your connection to fitness and movement and eventually found your way. And for people that don't know, in my humble opinion, you're kind of paving the way for athlete management and gently creating a structure for people that are creators with movement and brand development. How did you, first and foremost, find your way back to fitness? And then how did that eventually lead you kind of towards this role of athlete development and brand development? Yeah,
great question. I walked through, like everybody that might be listening to this and I walked through the door of an affiliate, that's a really direct, simple, if I had to give a quick answer, that changed fitness for me, for all those things we talked before. I found a place that was interesting every day. And man, I have trained every way, done strength and conditioning because it was a part of my role on a team in school, or preparing because I wanted to get that opportunity to play at a school after high school. I was always as a kid, I was the kid that was outside all day, every day, playing sports and or training all the time, running randomly, younger than most people would take the time to train for something. My era is a little different too. There wasn't as much focused training that went on it was more of the people that were training were really motivated. That's how you were looked at in my era. It was not a ton of strength and conditioning programs. Sport, AAU was barely a thing. I'm that old.
I'd also argue, just to jump in real quick, that it was more play. And the way you found out where people were was not through a group chat like it is now. It was a ton of bikes outside somebody's house, just sitting on the lawn. You're oh, that's where everybody's at. And they're getting after it, in whatever sport they're playing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Summer, I played a ton of baseball. That was my real passion. Still is my favorite sport. Golf's up there too now. And I've, done that post, sort of my playing days. I've, played after. as like an outlet.
Don't forget pickleball, man.
Yeah, like,
you and the crew are getting erotic around pickleball.
It's new. That has legs. I can tell you that. We are excited about it. But yeah, like I walked through the door of an affiliate, and I had been doing a lot of like yoga and this training called TRX, and getting bored as hell. Like ran some marathons, and man, I tell this often. Like I did an open workout my first week at a CrossFit gym and at an affiliate, and it was I think it's 13 or 12.1 was 7 minutes of burpees.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 12.1. And that was the first workout after my baseline that I did in a CrossFit gym. So I did my baseline on a Monday. They used to do the announcements on a Wednesday, and I get approved to go to class for Thursday. And Thursday they handed me a partner and a clipboard and said, count his reps, and then he's going to count yours. And I had no idea what I was doing, other than they were like, can you go hard for 7 minutes on it? And I was like, yeah, on anything, sure. So I just like, and I got that like taste in my mouth, and like people were yelling at me. I'm like, this is awesome. So, that part for me was, I don't remember. Can you just refresh what the exact question is?
I'm just curious, it's so interesting to me, the identity shift that takes place when somebody identifies as a high-level collegiate athlete, and then they lose touch with it for a little bit. Life gets a hold of them. They get in pursuit of money, family, whatever the narrative is. And I'm curious how you found your way back into fitness. And it sounds like the origination was walking back into an affiliate where your first experience was the 7 minutes of burpees, which is a challenging first experience, but also incredible at the same time. And then based on your original lenses, finding your way back to fitness, how you saw an angle to help represent athletes to steer them towards the professionalization of sport.
So on the first part, to finish that, is like, it was competitive, which I think was like really helpful at that time of my life. Like I was competing in golf, and this, and at the time, just like almost unhealthy competitive in general. Hadn't really found my business outlet yet. So it was like, it just fit for me at that time. But then that just like really taught me that, I found a style of training now today. I'm still in it, 10, 11 years later, that, prepares me for anything, is what I've learned in the process. Right. So it's like, training, the CrossFit methodology, the way we do it, in our rendition of it, I love, and I'm like more towards like a, no barbell, no gymnastics approach now, on a day-to-day basis, a little bit of that here and there. But I'm trained, like if something in our community comes up and it's like, hey, let's go run a 10K or a 5K, or I'm ready for it, And so, that from a training perspective was, I think, what most was the glue and resonated with me, was that I was now signing up for pointing towards goals that I had always like sought out. And I didn't have to like, rethink about how I approached each of those things. I could stay consistent with this. So now I know like what I'm doing always is, if I'm not like completely engaged with I'm doing this, I'm actually training knowing that something will come up, and I'm preparing. Now it's for me golf and skiing. It's like, when I'm golfing, I'm getting ready to ski. When I'm skiing, I'm getting ready to golf. Hence part of the reason we've come out with something like that is it's an area that I've seen opportunity, but also been a part of, and I really want to train golf. It's unique.
What I love about this is that A, if you stay ready, you never have to get ready. But B, it affords you the opportunities to do this little thing called whatever you want. You don't have to sit there and be like, oh, I have this trip coming up. I have this 3-month window. I need to specifically train for that because I was gently irresponsible on the time domain in front of that. And so inevitably, it's like that consistent slow drip of discipline, not to mention in your world, the relatability. I mean, the majority of these CrossFit athletes, like 95 to 99% of their life is CrossFit. So if you're not partaking in their world, the relatability factor is tremendously declined. It
is, yeah. It's the hard part with like, Well, I think any sport, like the distance on it, like when you look at an NBA player on a floor, it's like more inspirational than aspirational. We just have like a big blend here on our side. I love that, is like finding things we can train people for that are have some, a big aspirational crowd, but it's hard to compare to this. That also has a detriment to it sometimes, because it looks really hard and crazy when you watch it on TV. And what our friends do on a daily basis is like, it's not what we do. Or you did it. I'm lesser. Tried to compete for a bit, but my point is it's yeah. But when you get around it enough, like it's like golf. That's what I've loved. Like that's been my easy comparable for so long from a business. As we kind of transition into that conversation, it's just especially now I've been out on tour a bunch with Scott, and people just have no idea. I mean, I'm a scratch golfer. The distance between me and Scott is like insane, right? And people, because it's it's like CrossFit, a sport that you can like watch a workout or see a golf course and then go play it, And I could go to a tour stop and shoot par, and then you look at the scores that they played, that, and some of them shoot over par, but it's a different setup. It's a different golf course. Oh, and the tension is insane. It's just like a trap, I guess. But it's cool, and it like far is more positive. That the positivity far outweighs the negativity on that side, and it's just the reality of it. Sometimes, like, just people get caught in the trap of like, looking at that, and it either is a deterrent or attractive for people to do it because they see it and it, it's super cool. I think that with what we do in CrossFit, the issue then becomes like 400 pounds over somebody's head, that would be like the most unrelatable, is like these like super heavy weights getting moved and people thinking that's it. Well, it's not. Like it's funny. I said this weekend, did the open workout, did my thruster, and I was like, geez, like I haven't cleaned a barbell over 135 in a year and a half by choice. Like I'm just like moving in a different direction, and did with that far more, and I was like ready for it. It's pretty cool, and it's just kind of like whatever your focus is. But on the business side of it, I think like you've experienced this through your career in this space too. It's like for a long time such green space, and we were so fortunate to be where we were at the start of what is now this global sport, and thriving and growing, and just getting better and bigger every year. And there was just like it was a backyard barbecue for the world championship at that point, and it was super cool. And you always got to start somewhere, and that's exactly where you should start. It's just like not too big, and that's a really good example from a business perspective of like not always looking at being everything immediately, and just like being authentic and doing things for the right reasons. They grow.
I think I heard you say too on another podcast, something along the lines of walking towards something rather than running towards it. And I think that's a perfect analogy for this, because you didn't really know what CrossFit was going to turn into. And so it was like walking towards it, participating in it, getting a feel, understanding the ethos. And then at some point, somewhere within that marker of like 2015 to 2018, when it really started to explode, and you saw like the different partnerships getting involved, you saw the sport changing, where it was kind of like you're not just doing one workout of the day anymore. Now they're tinkering with strength and conditioning principles, accessory work, energy systems. You're getting physiologists wanting to play, and then there's body work, and like all these angles started to, I guess, instead of angles, maybe it was levels that we started to see. And the tinkering there is what got really exciting. And you were around at that time with Redline, as Matt was kind of beginning his journey, transitioning from the Olympic Training Center, and all of a sudden he's challenging, the champ at the time being Rich Froning. And the sport and the business side was like blossoming relatively parallel to Matt's blossoming, it seemed like, from the outside looking in.
Yeah, it was it was the right place at the right time. But then it was like obviously a quick identification of all, what you were saying. It was such a new sport that those who took it really seriously could separate themselves really fast. Obviously, the prerequisite being you had the talent and ability to train the right way and focus, and you had the right switch you could flip when it was time to go dark. And Matt was like the sort of second generation of athletes to come through, and everybody before was like this like real like tattooed on your shoulder CrossFitter, right? And not to say that the next generation wasn't that, but like the attraction to guys like Matt coming in was the sport, not necessarily the methodology side. It was like, oh, I can do that, I think, and I want to stay fit, but let me go try that because I think I can be good at that because I have moved a barbell for 10 years, and they thought about winning from the beginning, not just going to a gym every day to stay fit.
That's
right?
such a great point. Like at the onset, there was this obsession with methodology. Everybody was eating paleo. It was like more of a health conscious focus, which is great. But the difference between health and performance is a big gap. And it's a very different definition too. The way you define those two unique lifestyles is very pivotal to gently understand. It is something in this space that gently sometimes gets convoluted and tangled, but you and I both know the pursuit of, what was it at the time, like a 500 back squat plus a sub 5 mile in the same day. Like that's pretty incredible as far as what humans are capable of. And at the time, or at least at the onset of CrossFit, there was limitations, right? Physiologically, that's not possible. You shouldn't mix these different types of domains. Gymnastics shouldn't be mixed with this. Heavy barbells are meant to be done with a certain rest interval. And it was cool to see like fitness really being redefined at that time and the challenging of what once were traditional rules.
Well, look at alone like the things that we see at the games every year that we walk away with our heads shaking like, wow, I didn't even know that was possible, like the sandbag last year. It's like, some of those weights, it's like, it's so fascinating too to then know behind the curtain. Like some of those guys couldn't even lift like 100 pounds less than that below the stadium, like 20 minutes before they were going on the floor. It's bananas how that works.
Adrenaline's a great chemical.
And it's that, and like, now you're seeing, and you're talking about like the nutrition sides, like this, like probably 2-hour conversation, but it's, that's the stuff that was like opportunity when I arrived in the space and was working with people as to like, where can you separate yourself? That was one of the big immediate separators, like people who looked to eat to perform rather than, follow the methodology, which is wonderful. I've done that, and that, changed the way I've looked at a lot of things, including my relationship with food on a day-to-day basis and how it helps me be better at just life. But those guys are like calories in, and like cleanliness isn't the biggest deal. And it's like, some people think that's like harsh messaging, but it's like, think about what their objective is, which is to win the CrossFit Games. And if that's your objective, then everything you do is a choice on which either gets you closer to that or not. And we've all heard Matt say that a bunch. So, if, nutrition was one of them, it's like, well, when you meet with doctors that are performance doctors on fuel and they say, eat Snickers or drink Coca-Cola and drink a ton of Gatorade, and you're like, oof, that's very different look on what we've learned in our space.
I think it's missing context.
We're almost like a little quiet about it for a long time. Yeah, it is. It's such a big discussion.
Totally.
Yeah, it's such a big conversation. Yeah, and so like that's the stuff we're talking about though, which was like so much fun. And still to this day, it's like smaller opportunities to differentiate in the market as you coach athletes to be their best and train them to win. But like you try to stay ahead of the curve, and you don't need to be different too. Like that's another trap, but it's like one of those things where you just constantly want to learn, right, and evolve and be ahead. And that was so much fun along the way, not only like from a business and a performance perspective. It's just like being involved in that for 10 years. And how many times do you get the opportunity to like help a sport evolve, be a part of it, watch it from that, that angle, because it's new, and like you're now treading a path to what we had no idea was going to happen, which is where it's at today. Like if anybody thought that this is where it would be today, they're lying. And we can all like have goals and dreams, but it was so distant. I don't know, when you were around, it's just like in 14 to think that you'd be pumping out 20,000 people at this event consistently down line, and like big TV deals and sponsors deals would look the way they did. It's just hard. But what it just took is like every day, trying to do a great job to help it evolve and grow, and your part in it, and everybody had a great mindset around that. And that was like born out of a group of people that would naturally be attracted to being in a CrossFit gym. Is they're innovators, they're early adopters on a lot of things. And it was just like a really good collection of people that said, all right, well, not only am I doing this and love it and super attracted and addicted to it, I'm going to, get in the business side of it. I've had so many of those calls of so many people every year of like life-changing event, love this, it's my passion. I want to move over. Like we're bringing people on now. Our new CTO, who starts in like, I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks, is leaving Apple.
Wow.
And he has a incredibly massive job there, but he's like, oh man, this is where I want to be. Like, this is, and I can do the same things now because the opportunities are getting there. It's like one of those things where it's like, not that HWPO has any analogy to Apple in that regard, but it's just, we have jobs that, people can put on a scale and be like, hey, that's a cool job and a cool opportunity and ton of growth. Just like maybe I looked at something 10 years ago with a company like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. The innovations on the tech
so that's
side
been like
are really freaking cool. Jumping back into the professionalization, I heard you have a really cool chat with Jason Calippo around this, but there's definitely levels to the professionalization. You've got, the Matts, the Tias, the Brooke Wells, the Catrins, the top of the conversation, very similar to like tennis or maybe even golf, where, the top in the sport are probably generating a good chunk of change, probably over 6 figures. They're doing very well, and they're true professionals that can steer their life towards training multiple sessions a day, recovery, business operations around brand development. Very relatable to what we see on ESPN with some of these basketball, football, tennis, baseball guys and girls. But then you've got the next tier where it's like the middle of the pack, which maybe their performance outcomes aren't that good, but their content creation is great and they're really marketable. And they maybe do some notable things in competition, but they're not necessarily peaking at the podium. And then we can go on and on, right? Then you have the next tier, which is like, there could be potential here. And marketing and business and the recruiters and the potential seekers love talking about those guys. Like, these are the people that are up and coming this year who you should bet on. And, those people kind of get a little bit of a seat at the table. This episode is brought to you by HVMN. Health via modern nutrition. They launched the world's first ketone drink in 2017, and then in 2022 launched the version 2 of their exogenous ketone product line called Ketone IQ. I found that incorporating ketones into my morning routine increased my daily focus and energy. The beauty of this product is that you can stack it. It doesn't even have to replace your morning routine. My morning routine looks like taking the dog on a walk, hitting my daily shot of Ketone IQ, hopping in the cold plunge, and then finishing it off with a nice Trident coffee while I soak up some morning sunlight. Try out some ketones for yourself by using the code Invictus for 20% off Ketone IQ. Ketones are a super efficient fuel for your brain that leaves you feeling energized and clear-headed. Give it a shot. I promise you won't regret it. Once again, use code Invictus for 20% off Ketone IQ. Move fast and break shit. This is one of the core values at LSKD and something that we fully resonate with here at the Invictus Mindset Podcast. LSKD develops functional sportswear with a streetwear aesthetic that's on a mission to inspire you to chase the vibe through sport, fitness, and adventure. Through my experiences with LSKD products and their team members, I have found a brand that I can call home that keeps me performing at my highest level through fitness and business. I train daily in the rep shorts and love the versatility they offer, so I can go from training at the gym directly to meetings, client consults, running errands, or preparing for podcasts. The LSKB vibe has finally reached San Diego, and we want you to experience it too. Go to us.lskd.co to start shopping today. We want to inspire you to chase the vibe. And then there's that next level of like the hopers, the dreamers that, they might make it, but they're quitting their whole world. They're dropping out of school. They're going all in on this CrossFit thing. And it's kind of very similar to back in the day when we saw people not going to college, taking the leap to go to professional sports. And you have the LeBron James of that. You have a few other people that have done it really well, Kobe. But then you also have the other side of that conversation, which is the skills aren't continually being developed as people. They're singularly focused. There's the monetization challenge component there. And so from my lens, I'm like, man, like we want people to fully develop over the course of time. And for some, it's really possible. And then for some, it's like it changes the trajectory and they end up, falling out of the conversation over time. So as this sport continues to grow, Matt, what are your thoughts on the levels there? And when somebody decides like, hey, I need to go all in on this versus kind of what Jason Khalipa alluded to, which is like he was building businesses, he was doing things over here, and he was competing. Val Volbril is another one that did both. Rebecca Voigt, she did both. And so I'm very curious your thoughts on this gentle toggling as the sport evolves.
All really cool names too. Ton of respect for every one of them.
Totally,
they're great people, and they've all found, ways to continue to evolve and be successful around training and CrossFit specifically. All those levels. You nailed so many of them. It's at its core, it's like I think a lot of people look at our space. This is like a big question that's asked quite a bit. Is like, or if it's like one-on-one with an athlete that's like thinking about pursuing it and what is their angle and like they need support or an agent. There's so much to, that's the one thing that I think I've tried the most is to drive a ton of experience and an energy from other sports that have gone through things like we're going through and not making the same mistakes, right? And sometimes that's hard in our space where, people think, or, even I do at times, just like, we're different, we're not, when it comes to like from a business perspective or like training to be great at something, there's a lot of similarities to many other things. And I think, one of the things, it's hard to get supported is where I'm going with this, as you like enter into it, right? It's not, and there's a lot of angles. The nice part is there's tons of opportunity, and in a really cool way, our space rewards deeper than most, from an endorsement perspective. People can truly make a living off the floor because of, where they sit on the floor, and it doesn't need to be the podium at the CrossFit Games, right? So it's just like, and there's influence in there now too with all these great tools where people can be just like really unique and authentic and talk about their self and build their brand and get a lot of notoriety and interest for that, which is then a monetization opportunity, right? You have followers, you can sell off of it. But it's hard. Like I think, there's a lot of starving athletes in a lot of sports that I think we forget about, right? So it's like, and I've been a part of with, PFAA and like athletes in general, just trying to find ways for them to like get more support along the way where it made sense. And it's, think about Olympic sports alone. It's like,
great point.
There isn't, bobsledders and like skiers and like, there's opportunities for some of them, but like those are similar analogies, like the 1%, right? And there are, how do you get there is just like, I would describe on my side, the entrepreneurial side, is like until I bet on myself, I didn't know I could do this or wanted to do this or like could stomach it. And once you've done that, what you understand is once you fail, if you do fail, you can just pick yourself up and start again, something else or somewhere else. And I think it's the same there because at that point, if like you're a 22-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 28-year-old, whatever the age bracket it is, and saying like, I want to go win the CrossFit Games or go to the CrossFit Games, that's where you're at in your life of, and you have to decide from a business or an entrepreneurial perspective, because that's a piece of it is like, am I willing to do what it takes to do that? And then you got to bet on yourself. And that's no different than what I did with Redline, what you've done with this podcast. When you start, there's nothing and there's no guarantee. And you have to wake up every day and do what it takes to get there. And it's what Matt's done, with 2 careers, lifting and now CrossFit, now 3rd career, us doing business together. It's like, I think that what I said before of like, CrossFitters, including myself for a long time, just looked at ourselves differently. And it's the same as like, just make business analogies, like look at other sports. You want it and want to be somewhere. You got to figure out where you want to be, right? Like you got to as an athlete, depending on where you're at and where you're going, you just got to find a way to pave your own path to get where you want to go. Like if you want to win the CrossFit Games, I can tell you what it takes. And it's like a million things. And, and I've watched many people do that I've been, a part of their journey with it, or watched it from afar, and it ain't easy. and it's super sexy and glorious when the medal's around their neck, and oh wow, even more when there's 5 of them in a row. It looks easy. It's not. It's like so hard, and there's many sleepless nights, and there's a lot of tears and blood, and there's a lot of confusion and doubt. And, the power of people being able to deal with that and get over it is then, what creates the story and the opportunity. Matt's the perfect example of it is, he just, was studied his butt off to become everything he needed to be to point towards that and be the best ever. And, greatness was his pursuit. And in the meantime, like a lot of opportunity, collected around that, because that was his brand. And what, I thought too at the time was like, hey, if you focus on this and do this your way and be you, I think that's what builds the best brand and opportunity for you to, then earn off of it. Because that's also a focus for guys and girls that are professional athletes, right? Like, this is a business, this is, they're not all, all of them are doing it to make money too, right? Like it's not, hey, I know that can be a dirty word sometimes, but it's, there's each one of them. And I'll tell you, no matter what you might think it looks like from the outside, will die to win the CrossFit Games because of what it means. And that's always the case. But there's also a business side of that. And, you've watched so many of them now, like Jason, pivot that into, bigger business opportunities using their platform that they built to help more people, which is really it. Right. But yeah, that's,
I think you described it really well,
there's
man.
so many layers to that.
I really like the way you described that, and just the relatability to any other field. I mean, at some point you got to bet on yourself. There's something that you do that makes you come alive. And inevitably, if it's something that makes your heart light on fire, pursue that thing, because before you know it, you're going to blink and life's going to be over. And so in the pursuit of trying to seek not just maximal potential, but true fulfillment and your version of positively and inspirationally interacting with the world, I really appreciated the way you described that, because it gives various lenses that are relatable to so many different athletes at different moments within their journey. And the age doesn't really matter there. What matters is, what they think and where they want to go with the tools that they've been given.
What's the target, right? Like it's interesting. We have a masters community that points towards this too. That's amazing, and I'm a part of it. Don't really compete on that side of it, but like got a lot of friends that are games masters athletes that I've grown up in this space training with. Super proud for them and of them. And I watch what they go through in order to be that, like, the guy who owns the gym that I go to, Mike Dudevore, for the first time qualified for the games last year in the masters category. And, we started CrossFit together, and I've watched, I grew up playing baseball against him. Like I've watched his journey and what it takes, and like what he does is not much different than what any of these guys on the open category, trying to win the CrossFit games in the, the regular division are doing. Everything he thinks about is around how am I, again, you got the aches, you got to get around things differently. Like it's harder as a more worn down athlete at that age. And I can relate to that. But, if you're, it's again, it's harder from a financial perspective on that side. Right. And incredibly, there are masters athletes that have found a way there that get some recognition and support, which is so cool. And I think that's like above and beyond most other sports that you look at. But there's some analogies you can make to that too, with like, challenger leagues or like, the golf senior tours. There's things like that, right, that make a lot of sense over time. But they're like, it's the same. And you just said it best. It's like when you figure something out that you want to do, you have to make a decision whether you're going to do it or not. And everything involved in it, I think like sport sounds sexy sometimes, or like, I want to win the games. I want to be a games athlete. I think that I always am willing to help when people say that they want to do that, what that means, and it's
man's search for meaning.
It's not fun. Like, I mean, it's fun if that's your thing. Like, and I love watching it and being a part of it. But when people like Matt look back at their careers, like, was he having fun? Yeah, he was. To some extent, but man, it was dirty and hard and hurt, and it was like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Sometimes it is like, geez, man, like I was texting with Josh Bridges yesterday and about something. And, I was like, I said something to him along the lines of like, a lot of grind, you put a lot of grind in over your career on a couple different careers, his military career and this to get where he's at. And it's, you should be super proud of that. Because man, it's like so damn hard. It's harder. It's the same as business though, man. It's like, that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like, there's nothing like, I think people can really, I want to help people look at it that way, where it's like, hey, it's just that you can have a job in the real world, and not, be chasing, something meteoric like that. Right. And get paid for it. It's harder in sport. Like you can't just be like, you can't get a job as an athlete that, that is like an entry-level job and that you're going to get compensated. That's not how it's structured. Their leagues are that way a little bit, but they're so elite. But like the NBA has lowest paid players, and that pays super deep. That's just not the way our sport's structured.
Yeah, totally. It's just interesting to see. I think you summarized it pretty well. And you mentioned Josh Bridges. Huge shout out to him and Jacob Hepner. Those guys get after it. Their boxing match was super fun to watch as well. And I want to take a gentle little pivot now, as you have really taken a liking to golf. And I've seen you spend a lot of time with Scott Stallings. I've seen you spend a lot of time with my guest on the podcast last week, Todd Melanie. And just seeing your connection to the growth and development of NOBULL, and then also seeing how that's translated to a golf program, which is pretty freaking cool. I think sometimes, CrossFit gets strategized as like CrossFit is just CrossFit. And it's like, no, there's transferable skills. And, will you chat a little bit about the HWPO golf and, your affiliations with golf and your connection with Scott Stallings?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really proud of that. It starts with a personal connection with Scott. I think my passion for golf could live there no matter, like I have that anyway, and that's way prior to CrossFit. And, the reason for HWPO golf is, how we would do anything, which is like best in class, the right fit for our brand and culture. And, it's a hell yeah. And we run. And it was just like a really cool opportunity because I've been so connected to the golf market of late with fitness. I have some friends at the tour that we're talking back like 5 years ago, we had, there's, funny enough, a CrossFitter inside the walls, two of them, of the tour headquarters. And these guys got connected to me on like, hey, we have this fitness platform that they were like godfathering internal because there's, this huge movement that started with Tiger, with people training, golfers look different. And man, I'm out there a bunch. They train their face off, it's really cool. Scott, more than anyone, total different approach. But it's evolving in everything does, but that's like, it's so fresh and new people are learning a lot from Scott, which is super cool. And one of the reasons that's been fun to work with him, he thinks more like we do from a training perspective. But yeah, my friends now, not at the time, were just people I were meeting that had a passion for fitness and wanted to talk about it through the PGA Tour channels. We developed this platform called Active, PGA Tour Active, and it was just like a stopper at the time. They knew that there was some interest and there was a lot going around fitness and how do they tell golf training stories, and I was trying to help them with that. So I was like consulting them a bit, more of just like consulting. I mean, like it meant nothing to me at the time other than like really cool people I liked that were trying to talk about fitness in a different area that I had a ton of passion for. I was like, hell yeah, let me know how I can help you and make introductions, And, today that's called PGA Tour Training. NOBULL's the presenting partner of it. Bryce and HWPO pay an annual partnership to be just focused on that. So it's this like emerging space in golf that, guys like Tiger were sort of the inspiration for the tour players to pay more attention to that side. And now guys like Scott are blazing forward on it. So, on my side, I was a competitive golfer post-college. Like I tried to qualify for, and I never had any delusions on being a professional golfer, nor was I good enough, by the way. And that goes back to what I was talking before, is like that distance between where I was as a competitive golfer, which was high level on the amateur side, to pro is like two different levels. Try to hit a putt from 5 feet when, if you miss, it doesn't put dinner on the table. That's a whole different world to live in. You can ruin your relationship with the sport real quick by doing that. But I tried to qualify for USAMs, US Mid-Ams, state amateurs, and had some success with it. And played competitively, sort of like how I had approached everything my entire life, which was like, if I was going to do something, I'm going to overdo it. And, I did it with golf. I hit, hundreds of thousands of golf balls and just like self-taught a lot, and then got some help and tinkered. And then CrossFit showed up and I put it down, and, it's become this like repurposing of like why I do things, which we talked about earlier. And golf came back in COVID for me, and Scott and I got real tight in COVID because, you needed people to talk to and work out with through Zoom. And like, we did some content together, and, he got me fired up on golf again. He come here, one tournament week and was like, hey, I'd like to play your course. He loves the course that I play at. It's a super old course. He's like, I'd never played it. I'd love to. I played with him. He's like, recharged me, reinvigorated me on golf because we had fun, and it's about camaraderie. And anyway, that was the connection. And then, I just know a lot, and I'm so far ahead of like the curve on knowing what's been laid for groundwork and foundation around fitness and golf and where the tour is trying to go. And NOBULL now, right? Like NOBULL got into golf with Scott. Todd and I are super tight, play golf together. I've been able to tell him enough about what I knew leading in, and, he's brilliant and sees opportunity ahead of so many, and immediately clicked in COVID, like, all right, I'm going to get a golf shoe out and then we're going to talk about training around golf with Scott. I'm going to sign Scott because they became friends. So when I got in the job I'm in now, like when I moved over to HWPO and we looked at like what was going to be our purpose, it was, of course, like do a ton of, with the CrossFit community and space and training people at different levels there. But I was really intent on what I've called democratizing what we do. And meaning I want more people to be able to do it our way. And it doesn't mean it's for everybody, but like, I want somebody to go on a piece of tech and say like, oh, I can train the HWPO way. Or like, I want somebody to, go, think of a sport and be like, oh, there's, all these options, and there should be, but our way might be a more extreme, intense approach to it. But like, I want to over time be more involved in that with people that are really make sense for our brand that we're attracted to. So that was the golf thing. And it was like, just the right thing for us to cut our teeth in other sports on, because it was the best person maybe in sport associated with us. Great friend of ours. Matt's at a good, unique part of his career where golf is, something he is interested in pursuing. So we can talk about that. And it's really cool to see somebody start that's the best in the world ever at something from zero. And, we can watch his journey a bit and, how does training affect that? There's just like a good, perfect storm. And, a lot that we wanted to learn about other sports that I thought would be a really good first place to do it, because we have a lot of other plans. Like we're getting into the fight game with a UFC fighter. We have talked a lot about, football, like, and naturally in NFL, NOBULL's connected there and Todd is, and, opportunities to strengthen condition people our way for football. And the same
What's
would
so
go for
interesting
anything. We've had a
too,
lot of
though,
people
like,
reach out.
is any entrepreneur that's successful finds a problem, relates it to either themselves or someone else, and then wants to solve it. And I think you and I have been in the space,
Or they get delusional about it, which is a key factor.
I agree.
Right?
I think you have to have that.
You convince yourself.
Yeah, totally. And what's so cool is just
True.
that I think you and I have been in the space long enough to understand and hear the echoes of, man, CrossFit's so linear. It's forward and back. There's not a lot of rotation. And so the integration of a golf program, we're seeing stuff with the landmine. We're seeing stuff, with unique kettlebell innovations and different ways to utilize these tools that maybe are used loosely in a strength and conditioning facility. We do a lot of that stuff at Invictus just because of, like you said, the growth and development of pickleball, the growth and development of golf, tennis, all these other things that are out there that they're super fun, but they're also, you want to have access to, hey, I want to drive the ball a little further. I want my back to hurt a little bit less. And there's all this overuse throwing and doing things the same direction all the time. And it just unlocks these key innovative conversations. And I also think it's really cool, just me being such a fan of sport, seeing how NOBULL's now involved in swimming. They've got soccer out here. They've got golf. They've got the NFL. They've got so many different angles that they're playing with. And I don't know, it's super fun to see everything come together where everybody can play and have conversations. And you and I both know, like, there are elements of CrossFit that we all love. But then there's also like, hey, like the barbell doesn't feel that good anymore. I want to do something else that still allows me to get a similar modality and training in without feeling like it's tweaking a hip, knee, ankle, shoulder, elbow, or wrist. So that way you can keep getting out and doing what you love without just being awesome in the gym, but allowing those skills to translate to outside of the gym.
Yeah, that is like perfectly put. It's funny. And I can see that in my own journey. Like, part of my barbell down reasoning is I always say this is just a me thing, but like the barbell is a bit of a privilege. Like you have to do a lot of work to be able to do it the right way, especially from a mobility perspective, and I'm just not a big proponent of like, just doing it because it's like, it's there. Like I modify the heck out of things now because I've learned the hard way of like not, and the barbell affected my golf, early on when I was doing both. Because the things you're talking about is like, elbows and knee and wrists, not being, paying attention to the base, well enough to be prepared to do that. Barbell is one of the most beautiful tools in the history of the world. Trust me on that. So it's not a knock on that. But for me, like I got to earn that at times because it can be not, the right thing. But yeah, it's been fun because, the rotational stuff alone, and we've seen some media with Matt around it. And me too, for that matter, is like golf specific movements. And that, it's so cool to have done and like see weakness that I have that I can build around that. Golf, my golf, and, people want to see distance, strength, I see it as like carrying my bag, walking 18 holes. There's so many layers to it, and, being way better off than anyone else. But it helps anyway. Cleans are really, transferable to using the ground, as force for a golf swing, right? It's similar, but, adding the feature, the rotational feature has been really cool for me to experience. And I'm excited to see what that looks like. We're very seasonal with golf out here in Boston because of the snow. So we only play golf a certain period of time of year. So I'm excited to get out and see how that looks. But that's also been fun for me, to be a catalyst too there. Like I don't look at that as like distancing ourselves from the CrossFit community with that. It's, actually celebrating CrossFit. I believe that. Here's the delusion I probably create myself, but truly, it's like, I've seen CrossFit in an email of the day talk about golf for the first time in 15 years. Maybe it's coincidence, but I believe that, there's been now Scott probably is, the point person on that is like, they see him doing some things, and then with us, and it's like, cool, and I'm excited to see, how we all look at those things together and dig in, because in the end, if we can help more golfers, get more people interested in working out and doing, a more intense application of fitness, CrossFit, and be able to call it that, that's super cool.
I also love seeing it come full circle, though. Like, it comes full circle because part of the CrossFit methodology is learn and play new sports. And I think Alan Watts has this really cool chat around when you become so obsessive of one thing, it actually starts to decline because you're just so focused on that one thing and you're not adding, think about cooking. You only use pepper. Like, how shitty does cooking eventually get if you only use that one ingredient as a spice? But as you start to integrate some of these other things, you're like, man, the flavor profile here is pretty dope. And when you think about that, it's like so many people are integrating so much into CrossFit, which is phenomenal. Huge community component there too. But I definitely think as humans, we crave the outdoors. We crave community in a different setting, different ambiance. You don't have to go play a full 18. You can play 9. You can go to the driving range. You can go practice, on a simulator. You can go practice, playing with putting or playing in a bunker or whatnot. And so there's different angles that you can explore. And, going back to what you mentioned as far as scaling or modifying, or, we like to talk about customizing to the individual. I think it's really important. The Buttery Bros did this beautifully where they talk about scaling for life. And I just love that because it's customizing to how you, Matt O'Keefe, want to live your life. Your customizations don't need to satisfy me.
Yep.
And I think in the past, there was this huge thing for a very long time where scaling or modifying meant that you were less than. This episode is brought to you by Mush. My friends over at Mush created an incredibly cool product of ready-to-eat overnight oats. And for those of you that listen to the podcast often, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And Mush has done just that, as their products have no more than 7 clean ingredients that are dairy-free, gluten-free, with no added sugar. Mush started right here at Invictus, as they had a vision to create convenient, healthy, and clean nutrition. And this landed them on Shark Tank, where the famous Mark Cuban invested in them. Now they're found in retailers all over the country, including Costco, Sprouts, Target, and Whole Foods. Check out my friends over at www.eatmush.com. And now I think it's floating to the surface as far as an educational standpoint of like, no. My North Star is different than your North Star. I'm not trying to win the CrossFit Games. I'm actually trying to improve business. I'm trying to improve my relationships with my family. And I'm trying to really get good at this golf thing because it's where I come alive and gives me peace of mind where I don't think about any of those other things. And so I love the way you describe the scale for life. And I can't help, just because I watched the episode like literally 3 times, your exploration with Heber and Mars in Japan, getting out to that beautiful powder. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning of our conversation today, but your episode out there, just you and the crew, Matt Bickle as well, just looked like you're just having so much fun, just like a bunch of kids in a sandbox, but it was just snow in the mountains on your skis.
Yeah, it was, so the backstory on that is, I've skied, and I'll definitely age myself now, but I've skied for 43 years.
Wow.
I was put on skis as a 2-year-old, and, my parents, it was one of the first things they had me do. I skied between their legs. We were lucky enough to have a place in New Hampshire and go up every weekend as a kid. And I just developed a massive, it was a passion of mine because of my kids do it with us now. One of them loves it. One of them doesn't, so it's like, I just loved it, and I love being outside. What a great opportunity when you live in a region like ours that it's really crappy in the winter to be able to do things outside. Yeah. But I've known about Japan distantly for so long. And it's funny going over there now, we learned they for so long wanted to not be attractive to us coming over there. They wanted to keep it secret for themselves. Now I know why, because I've been, and it's different. Like I've skied at a lot of different places, been lucky, and it's there's nothing like it I've ever. I mean, that was, and you see that joy come through. I'm really like proud to be able to do that with people I adore. Like those are some of my best friends. I love each and every one of them for so many reasons. So it's just like, you know, we're so busy. I don't really take a whole lot of time for myself, nor do they, to like take some time off alone. That's like 50% of it alone on that. You know, it's just like being able to do nothing, you know, and work aside for a little bit and be with the distance is great for that too. You like time change doesn't work. We're screwed up. Like we're just gonna, you know, focus on skiing. But yeah, the skiing was like, we started talking about it a couple of years ago in COVID. I skied a bunch with Bickle. And, you know, he determined we were ski compatible, so he wanted to do more skiing together. And we were, IE meaning like I was as crazy as he was and willing to ski anything and just go real hard and spend a lot of time in the trees. And I was like, so he's like, okay, I like you. Can you ski more with me? That's how we started our relationship. Cool. Was like, I knew him, but like through skiing. And so, yeah, it was, I mean, hey, like, here's another endorsement for it, but like, it's such a burdensome trip. So I understand, like, it's just hard to even logistically put together. Like, we flew to Tokyo and spent 2 days to adjust a bit, and then flew to the north in a town called Sapporo. And we were 2.5 hours from then there up in the mountain ranges in Hokkaido, in this like, you know, distant region that has like had gone through this like sick ski boom and over the years. And, but a lot of resorts never got finished because the money just never was there, because by the way, they kept it really quiet. Right. So there wasn't like a lot of like, you know, people using it as a destination from other parts of the world. And the Japanese culture, I guess, didn't support that. So there's like 20 mountains that never got finished. And there's all kinds of backcountry operations now with them. And then this one place we went, Niseko, which is like 4 mountains together. And the whatever goes on there from a weather system perspective, it produces it's called like champagne powder, but it's like you can go and it just like evaporates.
Oh my gosh.
Blows. It's like feather light. And every night is like a refresh. It's Groundhog Day for like another foot of snow.
Man.
And it's like, it doesn't matter what you see on an app, by the way. That's what I learned there is like, if you see on these like snow reporting apps, like 5 inches, that means a foot, because up at the top it's more, and they probably screw with it because they don't want it to seem what it is. Dude, it was like, I'm like getting excited thinking about it. We keep texting in our group about it, and I've never been on a trip where I've been like, I'm still thinking about this trip. Let's just start planning next year so that I can just continue to be excited about this, because we're going to go back.
It was just epic to see the reactions.
Of being able to do that.
Like they felt so organic bleeding through the screen when I watched the episode. Like I think there was at one moment where Heber was coming down and, you know, took a small little spill. And he was like, oh my gosh, that was the most euphoric ride of my entire life. And just watching that just got me hyped up and excited.
We got lost. Like there's so much in there that maybe didn't even make it, but like we would ski and like you just see like untouched snow and you just pursue it and you'd be like, oh my God, where is everybody? And you'd have to hike out. And it was like, but yeah, that is, I mean, you hear him like giggling in the videos. Funny enough, there's like probably less footage of me skiing because I was up, you know, snowboarders, it's easier to hold a pole. And I was like, I don't care, like, whatever. I'm just going to go and, like, bury myself in snow for 8 days here. And so I wasn't, like, I didn't have, like, cameras on my helmet or any of that. But it is that I've skied tens of thousands, probably runs in my entire life, you know, and I'm still skiing every weekend. Like, I ski, like, 30 days east now a year, which is a lot if people who know skiing. And every run was like the best ever. It was so just cool. Like, that's the only way to describe it. That one we hiked up and skied the top, that night we come home, that's when a lot of those interviews were done. It was like euphoria. It was like, I can't even believe what I just experienced. It was like what I've been chasing on skis my entire life. And then duplicating like every day, just like mounted. And then we took a helicopter tour, which was
I saw that.
dangerous, but like exhilarating.
How was Mars on that? Mars definitely was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. Here goes nothing.
His people should go to his social and watch his reel. I think it's one of the single coolest reels in snow sports that you'll ever see, and it's just him holding a camera out in front of him in like waist deep powder, just coming, and just like the joy. That was the entire day, and it was very nerve wracking. You're getting dumped on top of a private mountain. There's five or six of us skiing it. That's it. And it hadn't been touched in 5 days. It's chest deep. It's like, okay, what are we like risking here? And so there was a little bit of that. I had a lot of, I'll be real honest. I was really relieved when the day ended and nothing happened. But we also were with, I learned at the bottom that backcountry operations never had any issues. And they've, canceled days because of avalanche risks. So like we were really taken care of, but honestly, one of the best days of my life. It was really just really cool. And I fell at one point. It's probably in the video. I think I said that and lost the ski and like got stuck up to my chest in snow. And you build more respect for snow when you have situations like that, because you're powerless. Like I was I was buried in snow up to my chest and couldn't get my ski. Took me like, and I think Heber's taking a video laughing at me, and that was like just the nature of it, because it was so wild. Like you were all over the place at times, and he was like, I'm laughing with you, and truly that it was like, but that was a moment where I was like, holy shit, like I'm chest deep, I'm in the backcountry, and like now an hour from where we were before in Japan, looking at the ocean on the top of this volcano. The whole thing is bizarre, honestly.
That's so epic, man. Just seeing the way you guys navigated in between the trees was just, for a non-skier like myself, I just had the utmost respect for the risk, the willingness to partake in something that does have elements of fear. An avalanche is definitely something that floated in my brain as well, in watching the ambiance and where you guys were dropped off. And so
mine too. It's
so cool to hear that like the things I was thinking were gently or at least loosely floating in your headspace as well.
Yeah, that was on my mind the backcountry day, and the guide was, so he guided there in Alaska, which is some of the best backcountry skiing in the world, Alaska. And people didn't see it, but like he was digging a hole every run to like look at the layers to see if there was shift
cool.
And risk. And he was setting off, like he was cutting layers of the snow off before we would go with his ski, setting off what would be loose, and really coaching us. And I've done some of this before, but through like, what are your outs? Like, how do you act in a tough situation? Because it's still unpredictable. There's a lot of risk involved in it, which seems careless, but try it once, and I think you'll understand why we do it.
Totally, man. As we wrap things up, I'm definitely curious a little bit. I know Sammy and Matt alluded to it a little bit in a conversation with Lauren Khalil at Wadapalooza around the potential for an HWPO brick and mortar. And for a very long time, you guys have hosted at their home in Vermont. And, that's for anybody challenging when you've got people coming in and out of your house, trying to navigate a relationship, trying to run a business. Has anything kind of floated to the surface or come to fruition on that front based on some of their gentle hints?
Yeah, so we've taken possession of a building, and we're building it out as we speak. So our new headquarters will be in that general area that Matt and Sammy live. We just outgrew the working in the kitchen and particularly the gym. It's anytime we have our group of athletes up, there's heats. It's a little clustered down there. Matt's gym's awesome, one of the best gyms you'll ever go to. It's just got a small floor space. So we're moving into a 12,000 square foot facility with offices and gym, and we're pursuing to build the best training facility in the world. It is like our humble goal, honestly. Like we just really want to build something that we're really proud of, that the athletes that we work with, whether it's in the CrossFit space and as we extend out, feel like they have a home to come to and everything's there that they need. So we'll be done with the build out probably depending on some deliveries, but by the end of March. And so we're going to have a big opening with, all our partners and athletes and everything out mid-April, April 15th. And that'll probably be like when the world really first sees what we put together. But I've seen it started to get painted, and, some of the walls are going up, and it's going to be such cool. I'm so excited for people to get to see the tour of that. It's
That's
awesome.
super cool.
It's going to be really
and the
cool.
irony of opening up on tax day, man.
It is very ironic. Yes. Yeah. It's like where we're at our point is like, we're not, the analysis there is like, businesses like ours can live the way that we have, which is like, in people's kitchens. We're distributing workouts virtually. So but we build so much media, and we want to do so much more for our community, that it's just careless to not have a spot that we can get together more, and that people can, go somewhere that helps them be better at their jobs for our community. And then the same for our athletes is just like, we have an awesome setup up there, and we have a gym, 802 CrossFit, that supports the heck out of us. Is just like having, a better place for our athletes to train. And that's not knocking either of the places they have to train now. It's just, we've experienced enough to learn that we know that we think we can do it better, and so I'm just really proud that we're at that point. We have been for a bit. I think it's like Matt and I had been reluctant on just making sure we're like learning enough and taking the right steps and not doing it, and then looking at it and being like, I wish we did this because we didn't do enough research, and we were going to build, and it's right. What we're doing is perfect. And I'm excited. Our team's so jacked up, and, there's a lot of people talking about now relocating, and so it's super cool.
That's epic, man. And you're getting ready to head over to the 23.3 announcement with Mal O'Brien, or is that right? 23.3? And
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, a part of me is thinking double unders and chest to bar pull-ups. I think most people are kind of alluding to that. What are your predictions for the final workout, and what are your thoughts on the Open so far?
Yeah, I think, the Open's been super cool because it's been, I said this earlier on a team call internal, that it was cool how accessible week 2 was, I think we've like historically, it's always been great, but like seen more stopping blocks in after week 1, right? And so week 1 and 2, as at all levels of athletes, even RX'd, right? Everybody could see a path on RX, which is what I think is so cool. And I love that it's the right stage, because it's not really a testing ground for the best, it's like a stage to get them through to the next, is my perspective, honestly. Like, I don't think that's what we're looking at with like, where is everybody at open time? It's more down the line. Predictions for 23.3. I don't know. I think a triplet, would be probably it at this point. We've had, a couplet, and we've had a chipper. So yeah, I mean, double unders stick out because they're in the Open every year. And chest to bar, similar. Maybe a dumbbell in there would probably make a lot of sense. Some sort of like dumbbell snatch or squat or something like that. Well, it'll be interesting. I don't know. I'm not good at predicting on that side. I'm excited to be there, support Mal, her first announcement. I think it's a cool opportunity for her. And don't get me wrong on what I said before. Like, once the lights go on and, there's a camera there and they say 3, 2, 1, go, like, that's as competitive an environment as you're ever going to see, even though it's meaning a lot less from a results perspective. They're proud.
Totally.
So I'm excited for that. Yeah, it's been great. I have a busy couple of weeks. I'm there. I go to Indianapolis to go to the combine, the NFL combine, for a day, which I'm psyched about. NOBULL's a presenting partner now.
And they just launched their NFL kind of training apparel, which is cool.
Yeah, and that's in conjunction with that. So I'm going to get to go look at that. I was there last year with them looking at it. And then we're going to the Arnold to support Rob Kearney. He's competing in the Arnold Strongman. And then we go to the Players Championship for support Scott, and do some HWPO golf stuff with NOBULL on site. So for a week there. So a busy couple of weeks coming up.
Totally, man. And as we wrap things up, man, I know you're also headed to LA. You know, Matt has been involving himself in a little bit of Brazilian jiu-jitsu and got a little bit of a knee tweak. Can you give us a little update on what he's going to be going through and, you know, hobbling around a little bit in this season?
Yeah, unfortunately, Matt got hurt a couple of weeks ago doing BJJ. You guys can see a video we just put out with Amanda Nunez, who's a new partner of ours, and we're going to have some exciting stuff coming with her. Matt got excited after spending some time with her training and talking, and they're so relatable. It's such a cool episode. And they rolled. They did some, by the way, rolling. She's probably given up 60, 50 pounds to him, and she had him tapped out in a matter of like 10 seconds, 2 different times that they did. Yeah, but he, come back from that and had pursued a little of a head, but that kind of like ignited his fire, and he got an instructor to teach him a few times a week. And he had an unfortunate injury occur through whatever move they were doing. He blew his knee out. So he has an ACL, MCL tear. He's got some reconstruction that's going on. So tomorrow in LA, he's having an operation. So I'm heading out there to support him with that and get him on the road to recovery. He's been awesome, honestly. Like he's handled it like the champ he is. I mean, it's not surprising to me, but like he's completely gone into like, all right, how do I get back and point towards a goal that I've had? He's been working on like squatting a bigger number and doing some other things around fitness that he hadn't been able to do because he just didn't have the time or focus around it. So anyway, yeah, he'll be all right. I mean, and honestly, it'll be a challenge that I know he'll do how he's done anything, which is all in over the top and probably come back faster and be better on the backside.
Totally. So much to learn in the midst of adversity, and we're sending a ton of love and healing vibes as he navigates a healthy recovery from knee surgery. And Matt O'Keefe, ladies and gentlemen, always a pleasure to chat, touch base, catch up, and explore the world of CrossFit, man. As we wrap things up, thank you so much for your time and energy. I know you're a super busy guy. Any last minute thoughts that you'd love to share with the world?
Wow. Well, first of all, thanks for having me again. It's awesome. I love talking to you on and off the air here. And congrats. This is such a cool platform that you built. I definitely look to it for knowledge. I get to watch your conversations with cool people. So enjoy the rest of the Open. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming, and we're always open to feedback, and we really appreciate how dedicated our community is to us and bearing with us as we grow and get better. But it's just a fun time of year. Enjoy it. And always be present. I think that's the best advice I've ever been given, is just, do the best in the moment. You always have to think forward, but remember, the only thing you control is the next second. So I try to do that every day, even though that's super hard, because the past still exists and the future's staring you in the face. But the only way to get through both is to do the next thing, right?
I love that, man. You said it once upon a time with me, do the next right thing. And here you have it today. Just be where your feet are. So thank you so much, Matt. For those of you observing on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple, if you enjoyed my conversation with the Chief, Matt O'Keefe, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Till next time, guys. Are you over 35 and in need of a solid training program? Are you looking to improve your athleticism and keep up with the younger athletes in your CrossFit gym? Then look no further than our Invictus Masters program. This program places year-round emphasis on mobility and stability exercises with movements that we have seen directly benefit our Masters athletes. Our program is led by Nicole DeHart and offers a training program designed specifically for Masters athletes who are looking to compete at a higher level in the sport of CrossFit. Some of our top Masters athletes in the world train with us, including CrossFit Games champion Kevin Kester, Matt Beals, and Pat Sprague. You can learn more about their stories and the Invictus Masters program by checking out their episodes right here on the Invictus Mindset Podcast. If you'd like more information about the current training cycle or to join the Invictus Masters program, please email Nicole at invictusathlete.com. That's NICHOLE at invictusathlete.com.